Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs was quiet today, one day after services erupted in carnage. Officials say 26-year-old Devin Kelley opened fire with an assault-type rifle in the largest mass shooting in Texas history. Investigators are now trying to determine his motive.
But we can tell you that there was a domestic situation going on within this family. The suspect's mother-in-law attended this church. We know that he had made threatening texts from him.
Kelley had served in the Air Force, but in 2012 he was convicted of assaulting his first wife and a child, served a year in military prison, and received a bad conduct discharge. Yesterday morning, authorities say he parked at a gas station across from the church. Fred Kernow watched from his home as a figure in black clothing and a black mask with a white skull face opened fire, reloaded, and kept going.
He was just shooting the church from the outside. He was going from the face of the church around to the side, and he kept just unloading clip after clip. I duck down, I'm making sure he doesn't see me or anything, and then he proceeds forward shooting still. He then opens the church and goes in, and then I kept hearing gunshots.
Police say another neighbor ran out of his home with a rifle, firing at the shooter. Kelley was wounded and dropped his rifle just as Johnny Langendorf drove by.
The shooter got in his truck. The gentleman with the rifle came to my truck as the shooter took off, and he briefed me quickly on what had just happened and said that we had to get him, and so that's what I did.
The two men chased Kelley at high speed for 11 miles.
I was on the phone with dispatch the entire time. As far as I could see, Wilson County Police were all headed to the church, and on 539 I did not see any police, and so I gave them the direction we were going, on what road and everything, and that the vehicle was in sight, and I was picking up, getting closer and closer.
Finally, Kelley's SUV ran off the road. When police arrived, they found he'd shot himself with one of the two guns he still had with him.
We know during that pursuit, the suspect used his cell phone to notify his father that he had been shot and didn't think he was going to make it.
At the church, Fred Kernow had run to help victims.
I'm right in the doorway, and I looked around, and there was just casings everywhere. And when I looked to the side, I did see a couple small children not moving. They were not moving.
The dead ranged in age from 18 months to 77 years old. They included 8 members of a single family, a pregnant woman, and the pastor's 14-year-old daughter, Annabelle Pomeroy. Her mother spoke today.
One thing that gives me a sliver of encouragement is the fact that Belle was surrounded yesterday by her church family that she loved fiercely, and vice versa. Our church was not comprised of members or parishioners. We were a very close family. We ate together, we laughed together, we cried together, and we worshiped together. Now most of our church family is gone. Our building is probably beyond repair. And the few of us that are left behind lost tragically yesterday.
All of America is praying for you, supporting you, and grieving alongside of you.
From Tokyo, President Trump ordered flags to be flown at half-staff. He called the shooting an act of evil.
It's a very deranged individual, a lot of problems over a long period of time. We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation.
Authorities say Kelley had been denied a license to carry a concealed weapon, but managed to buy at least 2 guns after background checks.
We left them off.
For more, we're joined by Joey Palacios of Texas Public Radio, who's across the street from the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Joey, thanks for joining us. First, Joey, can you give us a sense of what the mood in this community is like today?
People here are still trying to figure out what has happened to their loved ones. I've gotten a few stories here and there of people who know some of their loved ones are already dead, and others who aren't quite sure what their status is. We know that 26 people are dead and at least 20 were taken to the hospital. At last we heard there are about 14 people still in the hospital. No official names have been released, but we hope that authorities will start releasing names soon.
And I have to imagine imagine in a community this size, about, as I understand it, about 400 people, even if you didn't lose a member of your family, you have to know someone who did, or know someone who did lose their life.
That's right. This community, as you mentioned, is around 400 people, and this is the type of town where everyone knows everyone. In the gas station that's right across the street from First Baptist Church, I've talked to the two clerks that have been there throughout the day, and there are people that come in and they're just happy to see that they're alive, that they're okay. I've had one woman tell me, who runs the taco shop inside of this convenience store, that people inside this church, the people that regularly come to this church, will go to this shop on a regular basis. So they're like family. They have nicknames for these folks that come in here.
Joey, I know you talked to Johnny Langendorf, who was one of those who chased the shooter in this case. What did he tell you what that was like? What was going on during that chase?
So Langendorf was here for a short time this morning, and he gave us an account of what happened. So outside of the church, there was a neighbor who began firing at the suspect as he came out. Langendorf was here outside the church in his vehicle when this neighbor, who he only identified as Steve, came up to Langendorf and said what had happened, that somebody was shooting at the church and that he was trying to get away. Well, this gentleman, this neighbor Steve, jumped into Langendorf's car, and Langendorf told us earlier that he reached up to 90 miles an hour trying to chase this suspect out of town.